You ever have one of those days where you wake up, pour your coffee, and realize someone just tried to cut you off from your own life? Yeah, that was me. And let me tell you, if you ever think a quiet life off-grid means you're done with drama, you haven't met a bored HOA president with a God complex. Here's how a bunch of suburban commandos tried to pull the plug on my American dream and learned the hard way you don't mess with a man who builds power for a living. I'd spent 15 years in the Army Corps of Engineers, another 10 designing off-grid power systems. So when I bought my 25 acres in Shenandoah County, Virginia, I was looking for peace, not another round of bureaucratic whack-a-mole. Built my house myself. Steel frame solar arrays, backup diesel generator tucked in a shed so insulated you'd never know it was there. Dug my own well-closed loop septic battery banks big enough to run the place for a week. If the apocalypse ever did show up, I figured at least I'd be well lit and comfortable. My only neighbors were a flock of deer, a few nosy squirrels, and just past the southern tree line, a neat row of McMansions in a place called Silver Pine Grove HOA, run the kind of place where even the mailboxes looked nervous. For the first few years, it was peaceful. I minded my business. They minded theirs. Then came Karen Milford. Karen. If you haven't met a Karen like this, count yourself lucky. Platinum blonde, corporate bob attitude like a tax audit. She moved in, took one look at my house sitting outside her HOA's sacred borders, and decided she was the sheriff in these parts. Suddenly, I start getting letters. First one's all legalese about shared infrastructure and assessment due $200 payable to her little regime or services may be suspended. I laughed so hard, Murphy, my old Labrador stared at me like I'd lost my mind. I tossed it with the grocery coupons. Second letter came a week later. Red ink, final notice. Services suspended if I didn't pay. Except, what services? My power was mine. My water was mine. My only connection to their little kingdom was a corner of the old municipal line that ran through both our properties. But sure, let's pretend the HOA has their own power grid now. I ignored it. That's when the storm hit. The kind of spring night where the sky turns purple, rains sideways thunder that rattles your bones. My battery should have carried me through, but suddenly nothing. Whole house goes black. No hum from the inverter, no cough from the generator, just rain on the roof, and the kind of silence that makes you check for ghosts. I throw on boots, grab a flashlight, and jog out to the powerhouse, expecting a blown fuse, maybe a tripped breaker. Instead, I see two guys in reflective vests at the edge of my property by the junction box, one holding bolt cutters, the other coiling up thick insulated cable like it's a garden hose. Their truck big HOA decal sitting right there in the mud. I yelled. They scattered like raccoons, jumped in the truck, and tore off back to Silver Pine Grove. In the rain, I find my power line snipped clean, a laminated tag zip-tied to the box property of Silver Pine HOA. I just stood there soaked and pissed off, holding that tag and wondering who these people thought they were. First thing next morning, I called Dominion Energy. They said, "Sir, your meter's fine. Service is up to your boundary." So if I had no power, it meant someone cut it between the line and my house. Someone, huh? I went out, took photos of everything, checked the ground boot prints, truck tracks, even measured the ruts for later, flew my drone overhead, followed their muddy trail right back to their maintenance shed. They didn't even bother to hide it. By noon, I was standing in the rain with Sheriff Danvers and his deputy explaining how HOA commandos cut my power in the middle of a thunderstorm. Danvers, he's seen it all, just raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're not in their HOA? "Sheriff, I'd rather tattoo a QR code on my forehead than join that circus." He almost smiled. While we're talking who should show up, but Karen herself, raincoat pearls the works. She's all, "Sheriff, this man's been illegally tapping our infrastructure." I barked a laugh, couldn't help myself. "You cut my line, Karen. That's not jurisdiction, that's vandalism." She tried to argue it was scheduled maintenance, but Danvers shut it down. Said he'd file it as trespassing and property damage, but this was headed for civil court. And that's when the gears in my head started spinning. See, I don't just fix things, I design systems. I set up my drone to watch the junction box, ready to catch them in the act if they came back. Then I called in reinforcements, Vince, an old friend who does electrical forensics, and Luther, a Dominion veteran. By afternoon, they were crawling around my junction box like CSI Suburbia. Hydraulic shears, Vince said. Not amateur work. Somebody knew what they were doing. We collected samples, scanned the wires, found fresh dielectric gel just hours old. Luther pointed to the HOA's serial-tagged label, grinning. She autographed the crime scene. I sent everything, photos, video, expert notes, to the state's utility regulator and the attorney general. Figured I'd wait weeks. Nope. 3 days later, a government Suburban rolls up with an inspector and an assistant DA in tow. They walked the line, checked my footage, nodded grimly. "This is criminal interference," the DA said. "We're opening a formal investigation." That same night, the HOA's general counsel called me voice-oozing lawyer speak, trying to resolve the misunderstanding. I told him I wasn't interested in resolution, I wanted consequences. I wasn't bluffing. By week's end, my attorney, Saul Remington, had filed a civil suit against Silver Pine Grove HOA, and Karen herself sabotaged, trespassing, malicious interference, you name it. Karen responded. The only way she knew how, with more HOA newsletters delivered to every house, and to me for Kick's warning about unauthorized usage by non-paying neighbors. She thought I'd fold. Instead, subpoenas started flying. Dominion confirmed my utilities were private. County GIS sent maps showing my property line nowhere near HOA jurisdiction. And then the smoking gun, a Karen email ordering her crew to disable Line B, access to the Cole property. Just plain as day. In court, her lawyer tried to argue. I benefited from the HOA because my driveway touched a road. They maintained. Never mind that road was county-built decades before Silver Pine even existed, and my deed came with perpetual rights. Saul laid out the evidence, maps, drone footage, a timeline so tight it could choke a senator. The judge just nodded, denied the HOA's motion, and let discovery roll. And then the twist, because there's always a twist. Trey, one of Karen's maintenance guys, cracked under pressure. Confessed she told him to cut the line, even brought the tools herself. Then another tech came forward, said the same thing. Meanwhile, a whistleblower leaked us HOA meeting notes proving Karen acted alone, no vote, no approval, just pure platinum blonde power trip. When it hit the news, things got wild. Local TV, Reddit podcasts, suddenly my inbox was flooded with stories from folks all over the country, HOA nightmares, garden finds, banned satellite dishes. Turns out America's got an army of people who'd rather tangle with the IRS than their HOA board. And Karen. She got a taste of internet justice memes videos. Her consequences speech played on a loop. She tried to fight back on TV, but when asked what benefits I'd gotten from her HOA, she just sputtered about publicly funded roads. Classic. Then the knockout punch. Right before the final hearing, we got CCTV footage of Karen sneaking into the HOA office after hours, gloves on, yanking files and flash drives. The DA slapped her with new charges: tampering, obstruction, attempted destruction of evidence. She got cuffed right there in court, still shrieking about overreach. Verdict day. Pure satisfaction. Judge handed down fines: $150,000 to Karen, $380,000 to the HOA for damages, and put the whole HOA under state supervision pending a full audit. Their countersuit claiming I owed road fees got tossed so hard the phrase "owes the HOA" nothing ended up on t-shirts around town. Suddenly, the county utility board started looking into HOA power grabs statewide. A state senator drafted a bill to keep HOAs from ever touching utility lines again. Karen House sold in foreclosure to a couple from D.C. Silver Pine Grove fractured. Some thanked me, some glared like I'd burned their petunias. I upgraded my lines, buried them deep, set up thermal cameras, and sipped my coffee on the porch while Murphy dozed at my feet. And 6 months later, I get a letter. University of Virginia Law. telling me my case made the curriculum, modern conflicts in private land use. Imagine that my headache a cautionary tale for the next generation. So now it's just me, the dog, and 25 acres of quiet earned the hard way. The kind of quiet you have to fight for sometimes. The kind you don't owe to anybody, not even a platinum blonde queen with a clipboard. Now let me ask you, do you think HOA boards should have the right to control your property, or did Karen get exactly what was coming? Drop your thoughts below. Tell me your HOA stories. Hit that thanks button if you've ever had to fight for your own peace, hell. Let's see who's watching from the farthest corner of America. I read every comment, and if you ask me, the real power's always been with the people willing to turn the lights back on no matter who tries to shut them off.